The federal election campaign officially kicked off today. Canadians will be heading to the polls on April 28th, just 36 days away. Making the announcement, Mark Carney stressed one issue as central: the United States and its president. JP Tasker shows us how we got here.
The trade war election is officially underway.
There is so much more to do to secure Canada, to invest in Canada, to build Canada.
After going to the Governor General to trigger the election, Liberal leader Mark Carney pointed to the tariffs and annexation threats coming from U.S. President Donald Trump as reasons why he needs a strong mandate.
President Trump claims that Canada isn't a real country. He wants to break us so America can own us. We will not let that happen.
The former central banker says he has the experience to steer the country through an economic crisis. He helped Canada manage the Great Recession, and he can do it again.
I know we need change. Big change. Positive change.
And he's leaning on some homegrown star power to get his patriotic message out.
Will there always be a Canada?
There will always be a Canada.
All right, elbows up.
Elbows up.
Carney's pledge comes as Trump says he's dead serious about annexation. The president is promising even more tariffs on April 2nd.
When I say they should be a state, I mean that.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre says he won't bend to the U.S. administration, pointing out even Trump himself says he prefers to deal with a Liberal.
Our nation is more divided than ever before because the Liberal, radical, post-national, borderless, and globalist ideology has weakened our nation.
Poilievre says the Liberals don't deserve another term. It's time for change at the top.
It's the same old Liberal MPs, the same Liberal ministers, the same Liberal advisors, the same Liberal elites, the same broken Liberal promises of the last 10 years. We cannot afford another lost Liberal decade. We need to put Canada first for a change.
With the poll suggesting the NDP is in a distant third place, some progressives are parking their vote with the Liberals instead. NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is urging them to stick with the party.
Only New Democrats can be trusted to look out for you.
This will be the shortest campaign allowed by law, just 37 days in total. Election day is April 28th, and polls suggest it's going to be a tight one. JP Tasker, CBC News, Ottawa.
Back in Toronto, police are investigating a fatal shooting in the city's Harbourfront neighborhood. The shooting happened just before 6 p.m. this evening in the area of York Street and Lakeshore Boulevard West. When officers arrived at the scene, they found a male suffering from gunshot wounds. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene. Ontario's police watchdog is investigating after a police-involved shooting in North York around 3 p.m. this afternoon sent a 17-year-old boy to hospital.
The information we have so far is that the Gun and Gang Unit Task Force was investigating, and basically it led them to a vehicle on Islington Avenue. There was the male in the vehicle and some other occupants. An interaction occurred and a single gunshot was fired. The male was wounded and taken to hospital where he remains in non-life-threatening condition.
Police say they arrested 4 male suspects, including the teenage boy who was shot there, as well as the other occupants of the vehicle. They are waiting for a warrant to search the vehicle itself. In the meantime, the SIU forensic investigators are speaking with witnesses, taking photographs as they gather details on the circumstances of the shooting. Halton police are investigating a potential homicide after a man was found dead in downtown Oakville. Officers are calling the circumstances of his death suspicious. Namba Weingarten has more on what could be the first murder the region has seen in over a year.
A block of Oakville's downtown blocked off, and neighbors are wondering what could have happened. Halton Police's homicide unit is investigating a suspicious death. Investigators say they were called around 5:30 p.m. on Saturday after a man in his 40s was found dead near Lakeshore Road East and Navy Street. They wouldn't give information about any injuries he could have sustained, but say it's being investigated as a potential homicide.
The person who found the male it does know the victim. In this area down here, it's a lot of restaurants, a lot of businesses, kind of walk-up businesses with residents above them.
Police say the man was found in one of the buildings here on the block, but they wouldn't clarify if it was inside one of the businesses or any of the residences that are right above them. So far, they haven't made any arrests or released a description of potential suspects. But if this does turn out to be a homicide, it will be the first one in Oakville and all of Halton region since 2023.
I mean, definitely like a shock. You know, Oakville's very quiet.
Seeing this kind of incidents happening, not knowing what actually transpired, one thinks about the safety of the community, of our family and friends.
To think this could happen like so suddenly as people are just going by, getting ice cream, getting croissants, getting food, just really heartbreaking to see.
With the bustling section of downtown Oakville closed off Sunday, business owners were trying to figure out if they can open for the day, including the owners of this ice cream shop.
Who is going to pay us the losses for today, you know? We are not going to sell, we are not going to open, and it's not good for the business.
Police are asking anyone with information or dashcam footage of Lakeshore Road East between 10 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. Saturday to contact them. Nama Weingarten, CBC News, Oakville.
Protesters rallied in Toronto for an annual Al-Quds Day demonstration at the end of Ramadan.
This is a genocide! This is a genocide! This is a genocide!
Demonstrators marched through the city holding flags and signs, praying and calling for an end to the war in Gaza. Toronto police said they would be highly visible at the march, deploying their liaison team to work with organizers and closing down roads along the route. Now, officers say there were no arrests and that the protesters dispersed peacefully. Well, taking you to overseas now, where officials in Gaza say the military campaign launched by Israel 17 months ago has now killed 50,000 people. The announcement came amid news of new airstrikes today. There were attacks across the enclave. At least 45 deaths were reported, and a Hamas political leader among them. The attacks also caused civilians to be evacuated from one district. After 2 months of ceasefire, Israel resumed full-scale operations on Tuesday. Negotiations are stalled on how that ceasefire would move forward. Hamas is still holding more than 50 people hostage. Well, for a 6-day protest in Israel have denounced Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government. The new demonstrations ignited after Cabinet's move to oust the domestic intelligence chief, and it's brought together protesters accusing Netanyahu of authoritarianism. With those demanding the Gaza hostages' immediate release, this weekend came new controversy, with the Cabinet voting no confidence against the Attorney General. Netanyahu faced ongoing protests over the proposed limits on the Supreme Court until the Gaza war erupted. Well, it's now time for our first look at the weather forecast with Ward Anderson from the Weather Network. I tell you, Ward, I was so happy to see those warmer temperatures. It seemed spring really arrived. Now, though, I'm crushed.
I really think that people get so excited when we have that first false week of spring where it's unusually warm and we think that spring is finally here. But no, we do tend to continue to have cold weather and snow in March, and that's going to continue. We're seeing it going into our Monday morning. Our Sunday overnight, we've got snow or rain, depending on where you are in the province. Most of the snow collecting up in northern parts of the province, of course, and around the lakes and the bay, cottage country, whereas the further south you get, the more this is going to be a rain event. It's going to continue Sunday night right up into Monday morning, and then we're going to continue to have unsettled weather right up into Tuesday. So you can see that coming through right there. Snow, the further north we get, freezing rain and rain, the farther south we get, and that will continue to move its way east. So we have a snowy Monday morning in our nation's capital. Whether or not you get it depends on where you are, and that unsettled weather is going to continue right up until Tuesday. But I'm going to tell you more about how much snow is coming your way and what to expect in the long-range forecast coming up in just a little bit. So stay tuned for that.
All right. Thanks, Ward. Well, the last 5 years have been challenging for small business owners. The pandemic, inflation, and now a trade war with the U.S. have all contributed to entrepreneurial burnout. And as Sarah Tomlinson reports, some entrepreneurs are struggling to stay afloat.
It's a precise and repetitive motion. As always, Kate threads thin strips of metal through this fabric, a key step in the creation of corsets, the main product for Kate's store, Bone & Busk. But these days, the materials needed are costing more because of the tariff war with the United States.
Now it's going up like 55%. So we've been doing our best to try and eat the cost ourselves, but because this is such a labor-intensive product, it's very difficult.
Kate's business, like many others in Canada, has struggled a lot in the last 5 years. The entrepreneur now wonders if the dream of owning a store is still worth the effort, or if going back to being a full-time street performer makes more sense financially.
It's kind of hilarious how that lifestyle was financially far more stable than being an entrepreneur. A lot of people think, oh, when you open a store, you've made it. You're now stable. And it's like, oh no, I'm probably in a worse position than I would have been if I had just stuck to what I was doing before the pandemic.
With tariffs, it just became so complicated.
After 8 years of entrepreneurship, Anne decided recently to throw in the towel. The highs and lows of managing an e-commerce business, coupled with Trump's tariffs, were the last straw for her.
It's not steady. It's the opposite of steady. Of money would be coming in, and then money would just be not coming in. So it's just hard to do anything with kids.
According to the Canadian Federation of Independent Business, the Small Business Confidence Index is at its lowest since the period following 9/11. This expert in entrepreneur mental health believes more support is needed for small business owners.
A therapist who really understands, or a person working in mental health who really understands the unique challenges that entrepreneurs go through.
For now, the move to shop locally has been a big boost to many businesses.
Canada's got us, and I think that we've shown some real strength during this period. And
Mateo hopes the movement is here to stay, so that he's never forced to give up his dream of being an entrepreneur. Sarah Tomlinson, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Liberal leader Mark Carney was making his case for a strong mandate on day one of the election campaign. But as Ashley Burke reports, his first event took him to where one of his ministers was facing protest.
I'm Ashley Burke in St. John's, Newfoundland with the Liberals campaign. Mark Carney is riding high in the polls here in Atlantic Canada, but about 50 protesters tried to disrupt his first rally. Police asked them to move outside and lock the door. Carney acknowledged them off the top of his speech and said he's here to listen. Then he tried to position himself as the best option to take on Donald Trump, and he got a big round of applause here when he tried to liken Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre to the U.S. president. But one of the biggest challenges Carney faces is differentiating himself from the Trudeau government. Carney said the proof that he's different is in the action that he's taken since becoming prime minister just over a week ago. And he has now proposed a 1% cut to the lowest tax bracket, saying it would put $825 back in the pockets of those families.
Well, ridings in the Toronto area will be key for Liberal hopes to hang on to power. A by-election last summer sparked Conservative hopes to snatch some of those ridings away. As Kate McKenna reports, it's where Pierre Poilievre spent the campaign's first evening.
I'm Kate McKenna covering the Conservatives, and I'm at a rally in North York where they're actually turning people away because so many people came. It's unclear how many people are here in total, but it's well over 1,000. More than 200 were turned away. Some were given T-shirts. And this is in the Toronto area, which is a Liberal hub of support. Now, this is the momentum that Conservatives are hoping to get after dipping slightly in the polls, and it's momentum that they're hoping to continue to have throughout the weeks ahead.
Well, the New Democrats, meanwhile, enter the campaign facing an uphill battle. Marina von Stackelberg looks at some of the factors making it so steep.
I'm Marina von Stackelberg in Montreal with the NDP campaign, where leader Jagmeet Singh is entering his third election as the longest-serving party leader. So how does he show voters he's offering them something different? The slogan for this campaign is one they've used before, "In it for you." Singh says the New Democrats will protect and fight for everyday people impacted by Donald Trump's tariffs, but they could be in for their own battle. Recent polling suggests the New Democrats could be at risk of losing many of their seats. Conservatives have been targeting working-class voters, and progressives may be returning to the Liberals. Still, the NDP say they have more money raised and are better prepared than they have been in a decade. And Singh is a seasoned campaigner.
The Bloc Québécois campaign spent the day in Montreal as Rafi Boudjikanian reports the challenge for their party in this election is to put a stop to a Liberal resurgence in Quebec.
I'm Rafi Boudjikanian in Montreal with the Bloc Québécois, where leader Yves-François Blanchet has just met with comedians at this awards gala. But his party's electoral fortunes are no laughing matter. With Justin Trudeau's resignation, the Bloc has lost its lead in Quebec to the Liberals. Blanchet says he'll address the U.S. trade war by focusing on specific economic threats to Quebecers, such as those employed in the dairy or aluminum sectors. He'll also talk up how Quebecers do not accept pipelines, even as Conservatives and Liberals speak of national energy corridors. One clear advantage for Blanchet over Mark Carney is his fluency in French, very important in French language debates, though this year there may only be one of those.
The Green Party of Canada also kicked off its election campaign. Co-leader Jonathan Trudeau spoke earlier today.
The role for the Green Party right now is to stand up for every single Canadian that's having a hard time because of politicians and career politicians standing up in front of them and constantly lying to them. We're not politicians. We're both people who have been to the front lines, have put our bodies on the line to fight for what we believe in. And at a time when values are diminished, at a time when politicians lie and equivocate, we tell it like it is.
Pedneau is the face of the Green Party's national campaign, with Elizabeth May serving as the other co-leader. They spoke about their opposition to Mark Carney removing the consumer carbon tax and politicians not keeping their promises. May says they are the only party to stand up for climate action and policy. Welcome back. Trade isn't the only source of cross-border friction. There are new rules for people who plan to enter the U.S., especially for a lengthy stay. As some travelers report trouble at the border, Jennifer Yoon gets advice on how to avoid it.
A new warning from the Canadian government to those visiting the U.S. for more than a month. Register with the American government, or you could face penalties, fines, even prosecution.
You'd be amazed at the exodus of people who are saying, I'm going home now.
The Canadians getting hit the hardest, snowbirds like Joan McAlpine Stiles, who has wintered in Florida for the past 12 years.
There's so much uncertainty of what's going to happen, and that's what has people concerned. You don't know from one day to the next what new rule will come into place.
Also causing concern are news reports of a BC woman being detained for more than a week after trying to cross from Mexico, and a French scientist who was denied entry, according to the French government, because his phone contained messages critical of the Trump administration, though the U.S. denies that was the reason.
They're frustrated, they're anxious, they're upset, and they're feeling unwelcomed.
The Canadian Association of Retired Persons says it's been inundated with messages from concerned members living stateside.
If the relationship continues as cold as it is, I suspect we will see the majority of Canadians changing their plans for next year.
Usually, Canadians are exempt from rules like this. Now, they're only exempt from being fingerprinted.
It just seems like an assault on an otherwise friendly relationship.
This American lawyer says the move doesn't make sense. She doesn't think Canadian seniors are threatening the U.S. immigration system.
This population, Canadians staying in the U.S. for 30 days or more, normally own homes in the U.S. They pay taxes, they contribute to the economy, they're law-abiding. These are all good things. These are all things that we want.
Her message to Canadians, the registration rule is here to stay, and those who want to remain in the U.S. should comply before the April 11th deadline. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Canada-U.S. tensions also reached the soccer pitch in California today, with the Canadians taking on the Americans for third place in the CONCACAF Nations League.
Lovely little ball through. It's Jonathan David! What a strike from Jonathan David to give Canada the lead just before the hour mark.
Oh, it was a beauty. Forward Jonathan David there scoring the winner in the 59th minute, winning the match for the Canadians 2-1. The two sides were at a deadlock of 1-1 going into halftime. David's goal was the 32nd of his career for Team Canada. The Toronto Blue Jays and catcher Alejandro Kirk have agreed to a 5-year, $58 million contract extension, according to multiple reports. Kirk is a one-time All-Star with the Jays, earning the nod back in 2022. The extension comes as the Blue Jays get set for their home opener this upcoming week as they take on the Baltimore Orioles. Well, Ward Anderson is back now with your long-range forecast heading into another week, Ward, and it looks like Monday is going to feel a little different.
Yeah, Natalie, everyone's going to be waking up Monday morning thinking it's winter and that we didn't just finish the first weekend of spring. Temperatures overnight feeling as cold as they are. It's feeling like winter. We do have this messy clipper, this system coming through and moving its way east, bringing with it this wintry mix of snow, freezing rain, and rain that's going to continue throughout Sunday overnight, and it'll move its way east. And then we will still continue to have unsettled weather throughout Monday and into Tuesday. Like I said, most of the activity is coming through overnight, and you can see the further north we get, it's far more snow, and then the farther south we get, we're going more into freezing rain and rain territory there. But it's also along those places where we drive, even overnight, right? The 401, the 400, something to be aware of if you're going to be out driving overnight. By Monday morning, we have a snowy morning in our nation's capital, and then that will continue to move its way east, and you can see this unsettled weather that's going to continue with these bands of snow and freezing rain and rain continuing right up until Tuesday. So it's nothing we're not used to. It's that kind of March snow we get, 10 to 15 centimeters up in the northern elevation, northern parts of the province. Less so when we get down into southern Ontario, even only about 1 to 3 centimeters around the Golden Horseshoe, because it's really more of a rain event the further south we go. But it is going to have us enjoying a bit of a messy week as we continue getting into spring and getting ready for it. But it's not that unusual. We will be keeping our temperatures close to zero, but it will be getting warmer as we get closer to April. Spring is here. Soon it'll feel like it.
Oh, good to know. Thanks so much, Ward. And that is our show for you tonight. Thank you very much for watching.